All right, I want to welcome everybody to yet another edition of our virtual meetings up here with the Northern New England chapter of SABR. I am the chapter chair, Bruce McClure, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner-Waterman chapter of SABR in Vermont, Dr. Clayton Truder, chair. This week, we welcome back Donna Muscarella. Donna is a fourth-generation baseball enthusiast, photographer, mixed media artist, and baseball card collector. She attended her first professional baseball game at the age of 2.5 and was enthralled by baseball even earlier. While Donna does not limit her passion to photography to baseball, it is her favorite and most compelling subject. She has a knack for capturing its sights and shapes with her camera lens, using art to share her love of baseball with the world. Tonight, we're going to hear a lot more about those two big interests, baseball and photography. Donna, welcome back. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I hope the weather up there is as nice as it is down here, very unseasonably warm.
You had to go there, didn't you, Donna?
Sorry.
You had to go. I got 4 inches of snow outside. My wife had a 2-hour delay from school.
Oh, sorry.
I'm looking for, I guess Gus the Sabercat has decided not to appear on camera tonight because he's disgusted with the weather. He can't stand snow. So
hold on, he's sleeping.
Is he sleeping?
Yeah, he's sleeping.
He's probably sacked out. Dixie's already looking for. Oh, there he is. All right, so Gus got his moment in the sun. Donna, give me a background on your baseball fandom. You've been a fan. If you are not muted, please do so now. You have been a baseball fan now since you were about 2.5 years old. Tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, that was my first ball game. I loved the game even before that, which is kind of crazy, but it's how I was raised. I describe myself as a fourth-generation baseball enthusiast. And my great-grandfather, family tradition was every Sunday morning, get up, watch some Sunday morning cartoons, Wonderama, some Flintstones, a little bit of Abbott and Costello, go to Mass at noon, and then after Mass, we'd go to my great-grandmother's house. And my great-grandfather would be sitting in his chair with a transistor radio to one ear and an earbud hooked to a transistor radio in the other ear. He loved the game. He passed that love of the game on to my dad. So that was my great-grandfather on my dad's mom's side. My dad's dad was also a huge fan, and every chance he had, he took my dad to games. So my dad grew up attending games mostly at Yankee Stadium and Ebbets Field. My dad was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. My great-grandfather was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. My paternal grandfather was a Yankees fan. And when the Dodgers abandoned Brooklyn, my dad was heartbroken, as was the entire borough. He already had exposure to the Yankees because of his dad and was already kind of interested in Mickey Mantle. Gil Hodges was his first favorite player, but Mickey kind of had his attention, understandably so. And he didn't want to be without a local team. He loved the game too much, and he became a Yankees fan and introduced me to the game. We would sit and listen to the game on the radio as often as we could. The rare times that the game was on TV, we would watch the game on TV. And he took me to my first game at original Yankee Stadium when I was 2.5 years old. We probably would have gone sooner if not for the fact that my dad served in the Navy and we were living in Puerto Rico. And that first baseball season back, the priority wasn't getting me to a stadium. It was, getting reacclimated and finding a place to live and all that fun stuff. So the following spring, he took me to my first game at original Yankee Stadium. And yes, I do remember some of it. I remember walking out of the subway and seeing the ballpark for the first time, and walking out of the tunnel and seeing the field for the first time, and it took my breath away. And Bobby Mercer was my first favorite player. My dad wholeheartedly encouraged my love of the game, taught me how to score, so on and so forth. It was never, ew, what's this? I was never forced. I just loved it. It was a great way to bond with Dad, and over something that I absolutely adored.
And that's how Donna became a Boston Red Sox fan. Good night, everybody. No, I'm kidding.
No,
So
definitely not.
what I find very interesting about your statements is that you've been a baseball fan since a very, very young age, 2.5. Can you you were brought to the game through television and those afternoons after mass?
Mostly radio. Mostly radio.
Okay,
Because the games weren't on TV that often here.
I can't remember what I had for lunch this afternoon, and you're telling me that you can remember that far back to when you were 2.5. So I'm like flabbergasted right now.
Yeah.
That's it's just, but it also speaks to the connection that we have with the game, because I can remember a lot of the sights and the sounds and the trip and the day that I went to my first in-person game in 1975. And mine was a little bit different than yours. I went to see the visiting team because my dad was a Henry Aaron fan, but I can relate to a lot of what you've been discussing here. You also are a photographer and mixed media artist. Now, when did you get interested in photography and get started in photography, winding up to becoming a professional? How did that get started?
From a pretty early age, my parents, because I was born in Puerto Rico, my dad and mom were very conscious of the fact that in order to share my early days with the family, they needed to capture a lot on film, and both stills and Super 8. And they would take a lot of photos, and things would get sent back to Brooklyn and so on and so forth. So I was in front of a camera a lot early, and that got my parents in the habit of taking photos every Christmas morning, every birthday, every special occasion. There was a camera, family vacation, so on and so forth. And I liked to fool around with the camera, and you could always tell which pictures were mine, because it would be, oh, there's everybody posed with grandma, and there's this, and oh, there's the cloud, there's the sunset behind the Washington Monument. And so you knew, even before I had a camera, which photos from the roll were mine. And it was a way to share how I see the world with others, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. You're sharing your eye with us.
And it was just a way to bond with people, and it was a conversation starter. It was also a way for me to preserve my memories, just like my parents did, of saying, hey, here's what's going on when you couldn't be here. So I'm a very family loyal person, a very sentimental person, and this all very much ties together for me. The photography, the baseball, it's just, I couldn't imagine things being any other way for me.
It's funny you mentioned the word sentimental, because what's the saying from Moneyball? How can you not be romantic about baseball? But I believe that baseball brings out that sentimental story, that loving memory of something you did with someone with the game.
Yes.
And you're taking that sentimental feeling and applying it to your art. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Yes, absolutely true. And just something that I just want to share quickly about how important it was to my dad that I be able to not just experience the ballpark, but see the game. You can imagine that at 2.5, very tiny person. I'm only 5 feet tall now. But we lived in what in Brooklyn was called the two-fare zone, where you had to take a bus to the train. And we were in Brooklyn, and the Bronx was very far away. And so my dad, every morning on the way to work, would buy the newspaper. And during baseball season, or starting a little bit before baseball season, he would save up those newspapers to build a pile, so that he would haul that pile. He would tie it up with string and a handle, and haul that pile on the bus and the train to Yankee Stadium, plop it on the seat, and sit me on top of it so that I could see the game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And after the game, we would take that pile of newspapers, put it under the seat, and start collecting all over again, so that
I proved my point. That's a beautiful story. You just proved my point about those sentimental, beautiful memories that we have from just going to a game with someone we love. That was a perfect example of what I was trying to touch on a minute ago. Yeah. What was your first camera?
My first camera was kind of lame. I got it by it was a gift for opening a bank account. And it was a simple 110 camera. I don't think it even had a brand. It was like, hey, it's a camera and I'm going to get it for free by saving money. This is cool. And it was one of those that you advanced it by pulling half of it out and shoving it back in again. So that was my first camera, which I broke while trying to photograph while roller skating in a roller rink. Not a good idea. My second camera was a slightly more advanced Kodak 110. I think Extralight is what it was called. And then I advanced from that to a very simple point and shoot Kodak. It was what could I afford? And when I graduated from grad school, my grandmother bought me my first SLR. It was a Minolta. Again, it was what we could afford, or what she could afford. I built my lens library up from that, transitioned over to digital, didn't have the money at the time to rebuild my lens library, and Sony was compatible with Minolta. And then in 2017, I started the dream of shooting Nikon.
Nice. You mentioned your graduate. What are your degrees in?
My undergrad degree is in what was called at the time Management Information Systems, which is systems analysis, design, and implementation. So in a former life, I used to design trading systems for commodities trading. That's what I did. And my master's degree is in economics with a specialization in finance.
Well, that's a bit of a swerve.
Well, that was the dream at the time. Was I knew that I wanted to design software for commodities trading. So getting those 2 degrees allowed me to speak to the systems design part and to the business. And it served me well. And now I don't do that anymore.
Now I don't do that. There you go. You became a professional you transitioned into that world of photography as a profession. How long ago?
Officially 2020. But there was a job in between. So when I left commodities trading, I worked in a Roman Catholic parish for almost 17 years. Started out as doing their IT work. And I felt a calling to leave commodities trading and go. I was on the volunteer committee at my parish, and I saw how bad off they were. and I, through a series of things, ended up there. Started being their IT person and ended up being their liturgical coordinator, their liturgical ministry coordinator, a bunch of different things, and did that for almost 17 years. And then during the pandemic, I decided that I was going to try and pursue this.
And how's it going so far?
I'm having an absolute blast. I love
I
it.
want to hear.
I love it.
Well, let's see some of that work that you've done. You've prepared some pretty cool stuff to show.
Yep.
Let's see if we could share that screen of yours and share it with the masses here.
Okay.
There you go, Donna, getting there. That's great. Good for you.
So this photo here is it was a very difficult one to take because it's not easy to take pictures when you're crying. That's Mariano Rivera walking off the field at Yankee Stadium after Andy Pettitte and Derek Jeter pulled him from his last game.
Tell me a little bit about that experience. You watched the greatest reliever in the history of relievers right off into the sunset.
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
It was, I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about being there. We didn't know how it was going to end, what it was going to be. You know, they had done the big fanfare they had Metallica at the ballpark and sang Enter Sandman and gave him all the goodies and all of that. And then, okay, here he is. He comes in. It's probably going to be his last game. What's going to happen? And next thing you know, Andy Pettitte and Derek Jeter are walking out of the dugout, and Andy Pettitte's making a call to the bullpen. And like, as soon as they stepped out, it was kind of surreal. It's like, well, is that, wait, no, really? Oh my gosh, this is it. And Mo started crying and he hugged Pet. I mean, you could see him like actually shaking and sobbing. And it was such a blessing to be there and witness not just his entire career, but that moment. And having listened to him over the years talk about how he felt like, the cutter was a gift from God. And I mean, he's just, like you said, the greatest closer of all time, but such a humble individual. And I wonder what was running through his head at the time. And it was really, I mean, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. And if there was, I'm sorry, that person doesn't have a heart. It was amazing. I was very, very fortunate to be there.
So my memory of Mariano is a little bit more humorous than this one. This is a beautiful, poignant memory, but I was at opening day in 2005 when the Red Sox raised the flag for their first championship in a million years. And of course, who they playing? They're playing the Red Sox. And they go, name by name, and they trot everybody out. And then you're like, where is he? And they announce Mariano Rivera. And he comes out and gets what was probably, I don't know, a 6 or 8 minute standing ovation because he got shelled in the 2004 playoffs.
I was there.
Okay. So he's kind of just standing on the third base line and he doesn't know what to do. And he finally looked at his teammates and shrugged and stepped out of the line and tipped his cap and the place went bonkers.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I said, okay, so there's the greatest closer of all time. And that's probably the greatest sense of humor of all time as well.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful photograph and it evokes a lot. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's part of where you get your business name from the lens of Donna Muscarella, in terms of you're showing these moments and these players and all of this through what you see and what you feel.
Exactly.
It's more of that connection to the game.
Yeah, it's really my whole desire for doing this is to share my love of the game with the world and hopefully spread some joy, even though this is a sad picture. It's really just about sharing what I see and hoping to make somebody happy.
I think you do. And speaking of making people happy, here's Nick Swisher.
Yeah.
Tell me about this collection.
So he probably is, of all the players that I've had the pleasure of photographing, he's the one that always gave me the sense that he was having as much fun on the field as I was having in the stands or in the pit, photographing him. These were taken, I guess 2009, 2010 season, over the course of those two. And I used to like to sit in the short porch in right field because I could get shots like this. And that inset photo on the left there, I said, you know what, I'm going to call out to him. I'm just going to see what happens. And he turned around and he acknowledged with the fist. And then that photo in the bottom right there, he was like, hey, I'm going to pose for a picture. What the heck? So those two were kind of posed shots, and the rest were just Swish being Swish.
You talk about that joy, but you're showing, you want to bring some joy to people through the lenses of your cameras, but you're showing us viewers a lot of the joy that these guys that are out there have just playing this game. I know they get paid a lot of money and all of that, but Swish is showing us here they're human beings who are having fun out there too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to get these pictures to him, and along with a note thanking him. And I know he has them because he was nice. And I sent, just on a whim, I said, what do I have to lose? I sent 2 copies to him, and said, if you would sign just one and send it back to me, I'd be honored. And he signed them all and sent them all back to me. So I know he has them, which is pretty freaking cool. Because again, it's all about sharing the joy. It's about showing my appreciation to him for making me smile.
What you said, what have I got to lose? That was my entire career. In your neck of the woods in New York City.
Yes. Well, yeah.
So once again, we talk about the joy and the things that you evoke out of your subjects, whether or not they know that they're giving it to you. Tell us what we're looking at here through your lens.
So these are all photos that I've captured of players who are in the majors now, just a sampling of some players who are in the majors now during their minor league days. All of the photos that you see of the guys wearing the USA uniforms were captured during the All-Star Futures game in DC in 2018. So just sticking with those photos for a moment. The one farthest to the left, that's Brendan Rodgers. He's playing now with the Rockies. It's Pete Alonso blowing a kiss to his family, who was sitting a few rows behind me after he hit a home run. Key Brian Hayes, who of course is the third baseman now for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Bo Bichette. The rest of the photos, top left, that is Josh Smith, who is playing now for the world champion Texas Rangers. Vladdy Jr., when he was playing AAA with the Buffalo Bisons. Boston Red Sox own Garrett Whitlock, who left the Yankees as part of the Rule 5 draft and got very smartly swept up by the Red Sox. And Sam Hilliard, who played last season with the Atlanta Braves and was picked up this offseason by the Baltimore Orioles. He'd played elsewhere before, but that's where he was most recently. So.
Now, you mentioned a minute ago when we were talking about Swish about how you sent him those pictures. He signed a set and sent them back to you. How many players have you contacted over the years with your pictures, and what's been the reception that you've gotten when you've made contact with players like that?
I try and do a lot of them in person if I can, just because I feel like it means more to them than just a letter from a stranger. I've been pretty lucky. This is before I had any kind of credentials or anything. I would just get to the ballpark early and hope. In the minors, it's a lot easier than in the majors. But I've had very good luck on both sides of it. And the reaction is just, like you said with Swish, okay, they make crazy money and this is a job to them and so on and so forth. But they know that all eyes are on them. But the fact that I took the time to single them out and capture them with my lens and then took that picture and got it printed and sought them out at the ballpark, they're like little kids. It really is so refreshing to see that just how honored and thrilled they are. A couple of people that really stand out to me in terms of how they reacted. Charlie Culberson was just over the moon thrilled that I bothered. I had been to a game and he got a big hit, and I was going back when the Braves were going to be back in town again and got them printed. And Trey Ambergy, who quite honestly, I don't know where he is now. He was jumping up and down on the field like a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. And he called over all the security guards. She's or when my favorite is when the players say to me, "Is it okay if I give this to my mom? She would love it." Yeah. Garrett Cole was another one who was just absolutely thrilled. I met him when he was still with the Astros. I mean, just over the years, there have been a lot, but and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just very fortunate. And again, it all goes back to, I'm not doing it for attention. I'm doing it to say thank you and to share joy. That's really what it's all about.
Joe Ross made a good point in the chat just a minute ago. He says the umpire says play ball, not work ball. That's a very
That
good.
is, yes, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
We will get to questions and comments as Donna gets through her presentation with us. So if you do have a question or a comment you would like to make, feel free to go down to the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, hit that button, and you will see another button that comes up that says raise hand. Click that. We'll get you in line, and we'll take comments and questions in just a little bit. Now here we see more pictures, a lot of Major League uniforms here. Tell us what we got going on.
Okay, so this is just a smattering of some shots, no particular monumental occasions or anything here, just fun photos of guys letting me watch what I love to watch. We got Bobby Witt Jr., Cody Bellinger, Christian Yelich, Anthony Rizzo. That is not a posed shot. I was just very lucky to capture it at the right time. Salvi Perez, Adrian Beltre, and Ozzie Albies. The Albies photo was during Players Weekend a couple of years ago. That's why he's wearing that oddball thing. But I liked the shot. So even if I don't love the uniform.
Oddball thing. Players Weekend was something that was established to show us as fans a little bit more of a human side of the ball players, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to Players Weekend. I thought that the nicknames on the backs of the jerseys or tributes to family or whatever was a lot of fun, and the patches on the arms saying thanks to whoever. But the uniforms that particular year were black on black and white on white, and they were just boring. So
I've worn enough black in my life. In my previous life, when I worked for Macy's, everything was black. I remember those uniforms, and it was like, oh, come on. We have color TVs for a reason here.
Yeah. So yes, I just you know, and there are some players that I enjoy photographing more than others. But I try and capture a good amount of stuff. If I absolutely despise a player, and I know that's a strong word, I still shoot them, but it's not as much fun. On to the next.
Well, I'm going to ask you who your favorites are.
Favorites to shoot.
Yeah.
Right now, I had an absolute blast this past summer shooting Ellie De La Cruz, or trying to shoot Ellie De La Cruz, because he's freaking fast. And that was a challenge. But Ellie De La Cruz was a lot of fun to shoot. I mean, Swisher, obviously, going back. Kelsey Whitmore with the Staten Island Ferry Hawks is a lot of fun. Mookie Betts, Francisco Lindor. I mean, the Yankees, I'll take pictures of Aaron Judge any day of the week, just because I just think he's such a good guy. And same reason, Derek Jeter. Ronald Torreyes was a lot of fun to shoot, just because you could just tell he absolutely loved being out there. You know, the Yankees are my favorite team, but I don't enjoy photographing them more or less than any other team. I just have more of an opportunity to photograph them because it's what's closest to me. Adrian Beltre was a lot of fun too.
You mentioned players you don't like photographing.
Yeah.
Give me an example of one and why. I'm interested here.
Josh Donaldson.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and keep this PG. I don't particularly care for some of the things that have come out of his mouth. I don't particularly care for things that I've heard about how he is in the clubhouse. And somebody like that, to me, doesn't deserve to take one of the relatively few spots that exist in Major League Baseball. So he's one that does absolutely nothing for me.
Very interesting. A lot of player shots. We've already saw a glimpse of what you got coming next. Why don't we flip to that next slide? Let's talk about some of the shapes of baseball, because not a lot of people discuss the shapes, the buildings, the other things that you experience during a game. Those players are out there front and center every night, but there's more to it. Tell us a little bit about what we see here.
Absolutely. So this, I put together just some photos with fun, dramatic, hashtag baseball sky. And one of the other things that I enjoy photographing, not as much as baseball, but enjoy photographing, is nature. And to me, this is a wonderful way to bring both of them together. Plus, there is nothing, I mean, a baseball stadium, I don't care if it's raining. I had a slide that I took out of just shots that I took during rain delays. A ballpark to me is beautiful in any weather. It doesn't matter. But when you have a dramatic sky that's enhancing the beauty of something that to me is already flawless, there's nothing better. There's absolutely nothing better. So these are that top left is, I can't remember the name of the ballpark, but that's in Camden, New Jersey, where the River Sharks used to play, just right over the bridge from Philly. That's bottom left there is what used to be called Richmond County Bank Ballpark, is where the Staten Island Yankees played. Now the Ferry Hawks play. And that mascot that you see there is Scooter the Holy Cow, named as such as a tribute to Phil Rizzuto. That bottom center is Scranton Ballpark pre-renovation. New Jersey Jackals, former ballpark, Yogi Berra Stadium. They are now playing at Hinchliffe Stadium, but that ballpark is in the midst of being completely refurbished. and is going to be the home to New Jersey Institute of Technology and Montclair State University come spring. Citi Field, which in my opinion is one of the prettiest ballparks of the 30 today. And that one in Top Center is Nationals Ballpark during opening ceremonies for the 2018 All-Star Game. So continuing along with stadium photography. So there are those beautiful panoramic shots, but then let's start looking at unique perspectives on the ballparks. So on the left is just some shadow play with the stools and tables at PNC in Pittsburgh. A down low shot taken during a stadium tour of Dodger Stadium. The light stanchions at Citi Field, a flyover at Yankee Stadium, the good old Harry Carey statue at Wrigley, and the Gil Hodges gate at Citi Field. They have some absolutely beautiful gardens outside of Citi Field. I could spend a day not even going into the ballpark and just photographing the gardens when they're in full bloom there. They're absolutely beautiful.
I am hoping that a lot of that doesn't change when they build that soccer stadium adjacent to that, because that old area is going to be redeveloped, isn't it?
It is, but this should be safe, because this particular area is right between the stadium and one of the staff parking lots. So, and then there's the train is right behind it. So this particular area should be okay, as well as the area around the Apple. Some of the other spots may be questionable, but I think this will be fine.
Very interesting. Now, I was about to say, the next slide that you had up that we talked about earlier, this was a commission by the Ferry Hawks in Staten Island, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Tell us about that. That's very interesting to me.
Sure. So I started going to games there. That ballpark has an absolutely spectacular view of the New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty, Lower Manhattan, and the Staten Island Ferry passing. And it's just it's a great place to see baseball. They did a good amount of work over the past 2 years to restore the ballpark. There's some more work to come, but they've completely replaced the seating and did a lot of work on the concourses. And it's a really nice, cozy place with a phenomenal backdrop to see a game. And so I was showing up for games and was there one day when Doc Gooden was supposed to be there to do a signing. And I had created a mixed media piece of artwork from my Yesterday and Today series. And I think I have it a couple of slides down, that showed one of my photos of Citi Field and a hand cut Doc Gooden card. And I thought it would be fun to bring it and try and get it signed. And unfortunately, he had an emergency and wasn't able to make it. So I was at the ballpark really early with not much to do. And players weren't out on the field yet. I was just kind of wandering the concourse and ran into the general manager. And he's like, "Oh, how disappointing." I said, "Yeah." I said, I had this thing that I wanted him to get signed. It's a one-on-one piece of artwork that I created. He said, "Can I see it?" And I showed it to him. He said, "I've noticed you down in the stands with your camera. Have you been taking a lot of pictures of the players?" I said, "Yes." And I photograph them and I get prints and bring them back and get them to sign a copy and give a copy to, "Those are your photos that are all over the clubhouse." And I said, "Yes, they are." And he said, "We need to talk. I've got a spot that I want to fill with photos of the team's inaugural season. I would love for it to be your photos." And so there's a 30-foot wall at the ballpark now that has photos of mine. These are some of the photos that are hanging there. ranging in size from 4x6 to 24x36, capturing the team's first season in Staten Island in the Atlantic League.
How are the Ferry Hawks doing down there? I know organized baseball left that ballpark for a lot of different reasons, and the Ferry Hawks moved in. Give me an example of what it's like going to a ball game there. You mentioned that it was cozy.
Yeah, it's the fan experience there, the ownership and the staff really goes above and beyond to make everybody feel welcome. They don't take it for granted that you're there. It's not like it was before. As much fun as it was to be there before, to see future Major League Baseball stars, and some of them my own Yankees. It's where I saw Brett Gardner play for the first time, and he's one of my all-time favorites. Just like at Yankee Stadium, and this is coming from a Yankee fan, just like at Yankee Stadium, it was, oh, you're just a walking dollar sign. And it's not like that anymore. The players really appreciate the fans. The staff appreciates the fans. It's a really nice place, a lot of community. It's Staten Island is one of the boroughs, yes. And some people say, oh, it's New York City. But if you're from New York, it's not New York City. Manhattan's New York City. And Staten Island has a bunch of really tight-knit communities, and the people come out, and the people who are regulars there all love seeing, oh, you weren't here last week. It's like a little family. Both, the team treats everybody that way, and the fans treat each other that way. And it's just a really fun place to be. And a few the first year, but they've got quite a few players in their second season who were scooped up and signed by major league teams. Most recently, Chris Brito was signed just yesterday by the Royals. They've had some former major leaguers come through there and make their way back. And Kelsey Whitmore, who's in that photo in the center towards the lower part of the screen there, is a woman playing for the team. So it's really a fun place to be.
And her story's fabulous.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people with raised hands here, Donna, so you're going to have a lot of questions in the Q&A, but I want to make sure that you get your message out here. Now, you talked about this last time you were with us a few weeks ago.
Yes.
This is Hinchliffe Stadium in Jersey. Tell us.
Yes, this is Hinchliffe Stadium. Yep, in Paterson. This is a 4-card set. I talked about it a little bit last time. So this was really my first foray into putting my photography / artwork out there for sale. So I produced this set in a limited edition of 50. And it's got my photography on the front that shows the ballpark. When this was done, we didn't know that the restoration was going to happen. And so it shows the ballpark on the front, different views. And my vision here was I wanted somebody to kind of take a journey through going to a game. So we've got the gate, the ticket booth, the entry area, and then the stands. And then on the back of each of the cards are stories about the history of Hinchliffe and its ties to the Negro Leagues. And I'm selling the sets with a portion of the proceeds going to various organizations that promote and preserve Negro Leagues history. Some money has gone to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. Some has gone to the Negro Leagues Committee of SABR. And the last few sets that are left, that money will go to the Charles J. Muth Museum of Hinchliffe Stadium, which hopefully is opening in February.
That's fabulous. Now, this is a lot of your mixed media art here, and this is a lot of your baseball cards, correct?
Yes.
So tell us about these. I also want to hear a little bit about your baseball card collection too, because I know you're a big collector. So go ahead.
I am. So this to me is the perfect melding of all of my baseball joy all put together. It's a collectible piece. It's my photography. It uses Allen and Ginter baseball cards, which of the modern baseball cards are my absolute favorites. Nobody should be surprised to hear that my dad's also the one who got me into collecting cards. He was a collector himself. We won't go through the sad story of what happened with his cards. But he got me started once he knew for sure that I was hooked, and that I would be able to take care of the cards. He started getting cards for me. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old at the time, and always encouraged my collecting. We did lots of card shows together over the years. So it's just, I love collecting modern, and I started just before the pandemic. I think I started going back and doing some vintage, and I did that as a tribute to my dad. I started by focusing on Gil Hodges cards, and I wanted to be able to get some of the cards that he had as a kid. And then once I felt comfortable enough trying to sell my artwork, I did the card set, I started creating these pieces, which are all, each is a one of a kind, and it combines my original photography with a hand cut Allen and Ginter baseball card. I cut it with a series of different knives and some other tools. And then I color around each card with soft pastels to match the colors that are on the card. I pair it with a photo. I think the two complement each other well. I create a digital overlay to sit kind of over the photo and behind the card. That gets printed at a professional lab on professional paper and dry mounted. And then the cut card gets adhered to the top of that. Most of them are 5x7s or 8x10s. I've done a few a little smaller and a few a little larger. But some I just create because I have something in my head. Some are commissions, and it's everything from David Ortiz at the parade in Cooperstown the weekend that he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, to current and past player shots. I also do what I call, these three on the left are my nickname series. So we've got the hawk, rhino, and polar bear. The photo of the piece on the right was a commission piece from somebody who's a mascot collector, and he asked me if I could do something for TC Bear of the Minnesota Twins. So that's my photo of a bear taken at the Bronx Zoo, and then an Allen and Ginter card of what they called their mascots in the wild series.
Gosh, that's fabulous.
Thank you. So then these are some more incorporating stadiums. So the one on the top left and the top right are from what I call my yesterday and today series, because of course Stan the Man never played at Busch 3 and Doc Gooden never pitched at City. But if you're a Cardinals fan, it's a great way to encompass the team history. Or if you're a Mets fan, that's the piece that opened up the doors for me to get that wall commission at with the Ferry Hawks. So that piece and that Yankee piece there, it was a photo that I took on opening day of current Yankee Stadium, and I created that piece after Aaron Judge broke the Yankees record, and really the American League record, for home runs in a single season. So that's my Yankees Home Run Kings piece with Babe Ruth, Roger Maris, and Aaron Judge.
I'm looking at Cal Ripken down there. That's a beautiful shot.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ballparks to shoot. And that was a fun piece. That was one of the first ones that I did. That and Stan Musial were two of the first ones that I did. And it just, a lot of this is, okay, what's the right Ginter card to go? There's plenty of Ginter Cal Ripken Jr. cards, but that just, with the bat kind of pointing at his number, it just kind of, it worked. And I love when it all comes together that beautifully. Sometimes it doesn't work. I say, oh, I bet that photo would look great with that card. No. And I have to play around until I find really the perfect pairing. It's not just a matter of, oh, let me take any photo and slap any old card on top of it. There is some stuff to it,
Method to it.
to use the non-technical terms. And then sometimes I wasn't fortunate enough, even though I was fortunate to see Yogi, meet Yogi, talk to Yogi. I don't have any photos of Yogi playing. I never got to see Roberto Clemente. Ozzy I got to see, but these are just part of what I call my tribute series, because there's lots of great baseball statues around. And sometimes they work really well with Allen and Ginter cards, or in the case of the Yogi card, this is one of the few times that I did something other than a Ginter, and I used the Yogi Berra postage stamp. And then for the digital background on that, I did red, white, and blue with little anchors to as a nod to his time serving in the U.S. Navy. That one on the top right there was a commission that I got from somebody who wanted a rhino, but didn't want a nickname rhino. And they specifically said, hey, can you do the statue? I said, well, the statue hasn't gone up yet, so no. They said, all right, can you do, I said, I can do Wrigley with the card. No. How about, can you do his Hall of Fame plaque at Wrigley? And I said, sure. So I did that with that digital background there is kind of mimics the Fly the W, even though there's no W there and it's not white. And then that little red imprint there, I don't know if it's big enough for you to be able to see, but that's a silhouette of a rhino that I created using one of my rhino photos. So.
Oh, that's fabulous. Love it.
And that's it for the artwork. So I just want to say before we get to the Q&A that I hope that my photos and my artwork have brought smiles to your faces as big as or bigger than the smiles that you see on the faces of these players here.
How could you not bring someone joy through your lenses?
Well, thank you.
There you go. Tell me where you find your artwork.
I have a digital gallery. I don't have an online store because I like to keep things fresh, and I like to go with commissions or whatever happens to get my creative juices going at the time. And I don't want the pressure or stress of having to keep an online store stocked. So I create on an as needed basis. So there's a online portfolio, and when we get to here we go. So there's a portfolio of some of my work. You can see at the bottom there, behance.net/the lens of Donna M. I post everything that I have available or commissions once they've gotten into the hands of the recipient. That all goes up on my Twitter, my threads, and my Instagram, all with the same handle at the lens of Donna M. And you can contact me. My DMs are open. You can contact me there, or my email address, thelensofdonnam@gmail.com. So if anybody's interested in any artwork, I'd love and be honored to add a piece of my work to your collection. Or if you know somebody who wants a gift, we're done with gifting for Christmas. We're a little too close, but as long as it's somebody that I've got in my portfolio or can get, and we can pair it either with a Ginter card, or I've done a couple, like somebody asked for a Jason Dominguez piece, and Jason Dominguez doesn't have a Ginter yet. He's not even in the majors yet. So we got felt coasters from the Hudson Valley Renegades that had some heft to them, and we paired that, or I've done patches, I did the stamp. So there are definitely options, but the biggest thing is we have to make sure that I've got something in my photography catalog that fits the bill, or can get something that fits the bill.
That's fantastic. You have got a line of people who want to talk to you here. So let's bring everybody back to the screen. I'm going to stop sharing if you don't mind.
Not at all.
And let's see. First up, I want it on record. There is no favoritism here. she had the first question. Let's go to my wife, Molly. You did unmute. Go ahead, Molly.
First of all, Donna, thank you for the lovely presentation. Last spring, Bruce and I went to Cooperstown and we got to see your gallery display in one of the local shops there. And I was just wondering how you decided what pieces to display at that gallery. They were beautiful pieces of artwork. We really enjoyed seeing them, but just trying to understand what thought process went behind that display.
Thank you very much for stopping in and for your kind words about my artwork. I appreciate it. I wanted to, once you go to retail, you kind of have to think about what are the masses going to want, who are the popular teams, who are the popular players. And that was really the impetus for what was going to go on the shelves there. I am not biased. There are players that I've enjoyed photographing that people have probably never heard of. So it's not all about superstars for me, but when you're competing with every single other shop along Main Street, is anybody really going to care about X? I'm not going to name any names and insult anybody, but there are certain things that when they're shopping that way that are going to strike somebody's fancy.
I have to tell you, Bruce and I have been to Cooperstown many times in the winter, in the spring, in the fall. We've been there every season. It's one of our favorite places to go.
Mine too.
And we've been in pretty much every store on Main Street. I think Bruce will tell you the same thing. And I've never seen artwork like yours before in any of the stores. It truly did stand out and it was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And happy holidays, my dear.
Same to you. Same to you.
Gary Joklin, you are up.
Okay, well, and maybe I'll just waste my my tongue-in-cheek question. I was wondering how many takes did it take to get the Yankee Stadium flyover? Did they make a second pass for you?
Oh, I wish. They don't even do them anymore. I so miss the flyovers. And this is going to sound weird, but flyovers for me are one of the hardest things to shoot because I love watching the crowd reaction and I can't do that and catch the planes going over at the same time. And sadly, they don't do the flyovers at Yankee Stadium anymore. So my days of trying to juggle on opening day are gone. But yeah, oh man, wouldn't that be nice if it posed the flyover for me? Wow.
Come on, Donnie, you are huge in this industry. You could make that happen.
I don't have that kind of clout. No.
Donna's underestimating her influence right now.
In what ways does your new role as a photographer get you better vantage points than the fans who pay for the seats? Do you get on-field access at ballparks?
I have not yet been credentialed by Major League Baseball, but I will tell a quick funny story about on-field access for Major League Baseball that my camera got me. I was at Yankee Stadium 2, so renovated original Yankee Stadium, and it was a bizarre game that was a like twice rescheduled makeup game on a Thursday afternoon, and there weren't a lot of people there, but works for me to and they were like a $5 seat, sit wherever you want. Okay. So I was there with my camera. The team was taking fielding practice, and Esteban Loaiza was out in shagging fly balls, and somebody behind me was like, "Hey, do you have a big mouth?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "He's my friend. Do you think you could get his attention?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a loudmouth from Brooklyn. I can try, but I don't know." And he was like, "Hey, and that's a really nice camera. If we get his attention, do you think you could take a picture of us?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was still shooting film at the time. So I holler. A couple other people get in on it. We finally get his attention. And so the guy says to him, oh, blah, 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 this is my friend. She's going to take a picture of us. And he's like, don't do it here. I'll meet you by the dugout. And he goes, I'll tell security to let you onto the field. And I was like, excuse me, what? And so there I am standing on the field at Yankee Stadium, and the players are running past me. Derek Jeter runs by and goes, hi. And I'm like, hi. And Bernie Wilson, I mean, all the players. And I'm just like, all because this guy asked me to take a picture of them with my camera, and then sat me, even though it was sit anywhere you want, ended up smack behind the Yankee dugout, all because I was there with my camera. So sometimes the camera gets me on field access without being credentialed. But I have been credentialed by several minor and independent league teams. So I do get access to the camera wells and the fields and the dugout, and hopefully someday credentialed by Major League Baseball. Fingers crossed. I've done some shooting for the Baseball Hall of Fame, so maybe we'll see.
Wow. And do you have to pay royalties to the owners of the parks that you shoot?
Well, because I'm not selling my straight photography. I can't sell it because I'm not licensed. I haven't chosen to pursue that avenue because A, it's extremely expensive. B, there's a lot of red tape. Because I'm using the photography to create one-of-a-kind pieces, I'm within my rights as an artist to not have to pay any licensing fees or royalties.
Fascinating. And I hope someday you give some thought to writing a book or an article about how to get started in this kind of work.
It's something that I have thought about doing in the context of something for SABR. I want to get a little bit more experience under my belt first before I do it, but it is something that I've thought of, and thank you for the request.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to go to Mary Shea. Mary had a great question in the chat that I asked her to come out with. Mary, how are you this evening?
Hi, good, thanks. Thanks for
Hi,
glad you're here.
Mary.
Nice to see you, Donna.
You too, Mary.
I highly recommend going to Hinchliffe, and especially with Donna. So she's fabulous, and your photography is just fabulous. I keep seeing new photos, even though we had you for our SABR meeting, and yeah, Kelsey Whitmore, you could see the muscles in her arm, and
Yeah, right. She is ripped. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and you catch it. Yeah. So just great photography, and I was wondering, I just thought, have you, and he kind of alluded to it, have you ever thought of publishing your photos in a book?
If I would love to do that, but then I have to get licensed. And I'm not against getting licensed, but I don't think I'm at the point yet where I mean, they don't grant everybody a license. So I want to get some more, even though I've been shooting for a long time, I haven't been shooting professionally for a long time. So I just want to beef up the CV a bit before, but I would absolutely love to do a book. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking of like grassroots baseball. I'm sure you're aware of, yeah.
Gene Fruth
that would be great.
Is an idol. Yeah. Yes.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Paul Hansler. Paul, how you doing this evening?
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much for the invite, and what a wonderful session. Donna, thank you for producing the work that you've done, and the artistry is really fantastic. From my perspective, I've taken up photography in the last couple of years, and back in the early days of the pandemic, I was lucky enough to secure a Nikon camera, but I got very quickly frustrated by how cumbersome it was. And I ended up just switching off to just using the phone that I can stick in my pocket and take out any place, and just use that as a much more expedient apparatus. But one thing that I've been able to develop is an eye for black and white photography. And I'll take an image and usually right on the spot, because I can visualize that particular scene in black and white. I'll do it right on the spot. And of course, with the phone, you only have the noir, silver tone, and mono, but it creates a whole different mood by using black and white versus color. And obviously, for your purposes, with whether they're pose shots or some of the action shots that you have with batters at the plate, that sort of thing. But have you ever considered doing black and white? And one of your earlier pictures in the slide, the one of Harry Carey with the backside of the grandstand of Wrigley Field, I looked at that and I thought, gee, that would really be neat if you had that as a black and white image. If you experimented or done anything with black and white?
Yes, and before I answer your question, I just want to say how cool it is that you said that you see in black and white, because I totally get what you're saying. Absolutely. I love shooting in black and white. As a matter of fact, back when I was shooting film, and I do still shoot film occasionally, I would sometimes take 2 camera bodies with me because I wanted to be able to, there were some things that, well, what if I see that in black and white? I want to be able to capture it. So yeah, the polar bear nicknames piece, I actually, the polar bear is in black and white. So yes, I do shoot in black and white. I love shooting in black and white, both film and digitally. Sepia can be a lot of fun too, but I enjoy black and white more. And sometimes you can take a modern photo and give it a really old-timey feel. I like doing that with players that really understand and pay homage to the history of the game. I think that's a nice way to kind of acknowledge their level of understanding and appreciation for the game.
Yeah, it's a whole different artistry, and it does create a whole different mood as opposed to color. And thank you for providing your email address. I've got a whole inventory of things that I've taken over the years, but I'll try to sift out, not baseball, but I'll try to sift out a couple and just send them to you.
I would love to see your work. I would love to see your work, Paul.
Okay, thank you. I'll send a couple along to you later on. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let's jump over to Glenn Vassy. Glenn, how you doing this evening, my friend? You need to unmute, my friend.
Clicking.
There he is. Attaboy.
I wanted to say thank you, Donna, very much. Enjoyed your presentation this evening and the previous presentation. It's thoroughly enjoyable. I love the artwork you've done. I am a skillless artist myself in that I've never been able to draw. I've never really had much of a talent for taking photographs or anything of that nature of visual art. But I found late in life that I am really good at taking photographs that are either magazine covers or 8x10s and surrounding them with baseball cards and doing it's not even a collage, but it's a more of a art conversation piece kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And it's just been a delight for me to do that. And as you say, you find individuals who have a particular interest, and you can produce something that they will want, which is great because you run out of room in your own house for this stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Fortunately, your stuff is of a quality that you can actually commission it and sell it. I generally wind up, giving them as gifts, which is also very, very gratifying.
Oh, yes. And I'm sure that they're very much appreciated.
Yes. So, but anyway, thank you very much. I'm really glad for all of the questions that were indeed asked, because I would love to see a book of your work. It would be delightful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Before we head to Dixie, I just want to say that Gary is trying to upstage Gus the Sabercat's place here in our chapter, and I'm not sure that I can handle that much. Gary, I'm kidding. I noticed your cat ran off too when we mentioned. How about Dixie? Dixie, man, how are you this evening?
There we go. I believe that's Jack, the cat.
Jack. Gus is
Jack
going to
and
have something to
Gus.
say about that.
A fine duo. Donna, great shots, great artwork, fabulous.
Thank you.
I've been taking pictures for 50 years.
God bless you.
And so I've taken about 50 ballparks, 200 national parks, as proof by the 50,000 Kodak color slides I have buried around this house on various places. I would like you, if you could expound on what I'm going to say right now. That is that people who take pictures, who enjoy taking pictures, who take a lot of pictures, like me, we see things differently than normal people. We see things differently, we look at things a little bit differently, and therefore we get to take the pictures a little bit differently than just a person who aims it and that's it. Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. And I have a very dear friend who lives just outside of Richmond, Virginia. And I usually go and spend about a week with her and her family once a year. And she's, how come I can't see things the way you see them? We're standing next to each other and I don't see them the way you do. How does that happen? And the only explanation I have is the same explanation Mariano Rivera had for the cutter. It's a gift from God. I can't explain. And I don't know. There are certain things that you can teach about perspective, but there is just something that just, I don't know where it comes from, but there is just a way of, whether it be shooting at a different angle or seeing a detail that nobody else sees. It's very hard for me to scientifically explain what it is, but you're absolutely right. There is a different way of seeing things. And people like crazy are like, oh, it's raining at the ballpark. What am I going to do? And I'm like, I'm happy. I'm going to take, exactly. It doesn't faze me or bother me in the least, because, I mean, and we get outside the photography realm for a minute. It drives me crazy, or not drives me, it drives my friends and family crazy. If I'm strolling through Manhattan with them, I'm like, I'll catch you at the final destination, because I just see things and want to capture things. And sometimes I was like, no, okay, you just need to keep moving. I think it's something that, like I said, I don't know how to explain where it comes from, but yes, every photographer I've ever spoken to says the same thing, that we just see things differently. And you know, it's the idea of seeing in black and white. If you don't do it and you say that to somebody, they think you're, you know, off.
The other thing about photographers is that when you're in a group of people, especially, you want to take a picture of the group of several people. And of course, nobody wants to be in the picture ever. Nobody. But wait a year and then ask them if they wanted to be in the picture when you have the picture. Then everybody wants to see them.
Yes. Yep. I was out with a group of friends last Thursday, and they were like, oh, group shot. And, you know, my mentality, oh, I'm going to take the picture. Like, no, you need to be in the picture. And I'm like, oh, yeah, other side of the lens kind of thing. Yeah, it's, yeah, not what I'm used to.
Let's jump back to Glenn Vassy for a minute. Glenn's got another comment. Glenn, you're on, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what you were saying about artists seeing things differently, photographers or other artists. with a friend of mine at a baseball game here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, at the wonderful stadium on the island. And he looks over, and this was back in the day when not everybody had a camera in their pocket called their phone. My wife had one, and he said, "Does that phone of yours take pictures?" And she said, "Yes." He said, "I want the shadows right there between the batter and the umpire and the pitchers. I want a record of that so I can make a painting of it." He made this painting. I don't know. I can't do it
Oh,
justice.
wow. Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
You can see just from that it's the shadows.
Yes.
My wife took the picture immediately and was able to produce it and send it to him. And he did the painting, and my blessing is he gave it to me.
That's fantastic.
But you're right. You see things differently. It's like he knew that's what he wanted right then, more than anything in the world.
And sometimes the idea of the shadows of the ball players, I absolutely love photos that incorporate that. So that painting is just absolutely spectacular. That's very, very cool.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Donna, you have given us such a gift here tonight of your artistry, your photography, your ability to connect your passions into one, really beautiful experience that you get to have on a daily basis in the summer. And I envy you for that.
Well, I am blessed to be able to do what I do, to be able to have networked the way that I've networked, to give me some of the opportunities that I've gotten. And it never seems like work because I love what I'm doing. Am I exhausted sometimes? Yes. But it's a different kind of exhaustion from when I was doing the 70-hour work weeks with 2 hours commute each way. It's joyful exhaustion. And I know I use that word joy a lot, but I mean it from the heart. This is absolutely joyful experience and opportunity for me.
That's what baseball is supposed to bring us. It's supposed to bring us joy and community, and you're doing just that with your photography. Donna Muscarella, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you this evening. I am so thankful for you. Thank you for doing this evening, really.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I'm just going to be the experience tonight is just going to make me kind of float for the rest of the week. So thank you very, very much.
You are much too kind to me. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that.
Thank
All right,
you.
let's talk about next week here for just a minute, because we're going to have another couple of SABR members who are doing some fantastic things out there in the baseball community. Next week, Tuesday, December 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to have a couple of great friends of our chapter, Jeff Cohen and Leonard Aberman, the creators and hosts of the fabulous podcast Baseball and Barbecue, are going to be with us. Billed as two guys just talking about their favorite passions, their podcast is an entertaining and informative look at baseball and food. And I'm pretty sure that those two subjects are right down the middle for any SABR member. Any baseball fan is welcome to join our meetings. We would love to have all of you out there. I think next week is going to be a really fun chat with two of our sport's most entertaining podcasters. 7 p.m. Tuesday, December 12th. Donna Muscarella, thanks again. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm just reading these comments now, going back and scrolling through. Okay, so thank you again, everybody, so much for making me feel so welcome. And stay warm and happy holidays.
And before we go, Dixie's got one quick comment he wants to make.
I just saw that Gus had his Santa hat on. Is he delivering presents?
No, he's too lazy for that. Let's get everybody out of here. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.